And you're slicing them lengthways, and it's really important that you're keeping a portion of the root together because that holds the fennel together when it's cooking, which then allows for the shape to be better on the finished dish. So you want to get approximately 3 out of those, out of each bulb of fennel, depending on the size, so they're about 1 inch thick. Presentation side down into the tray. What we're going to add to that is about 100 grams of butter, a little bit of sea salt, and then any stock powder. We'll cover it in hot water and we'll get that in the oven, get that ticking over. So what we're going to do next, we're going to prep the citrus fruit that we use as a garnish. As we're prepping that, we'll keep any juice that runs off and incorporate that into the sauce. It doesn't matter what citrus fruit it is, when you want to segment it, the process is exactly the same. Start with an orange. That's it. Where the ends are, you want to take both ends off so you've got a nice square end. Makes it easier to cut the rest of the sides. Using the length of the knife, it almost wants to be no work. You are sliding the knife backwards and forwards, so you're allowing you to take all the rind off, all the pith, but leaving as much of the fruit on as possible. When you do that, you'll get the larger segments. So rotating it, removing any white of the pith, leaving the large orange segments. You get that. And as I say, it doesn't matter if it's grapefruit, orange, anyone cooking with pomelo or yuzu, it's exactly the same. It's letting the knife do the work, nice long strokes, and not putting too much downward pressure if you don't want to lose any more of that juice. We're ending up with the orange that looks like that, plenty of large segments in there. What we're going to do, we're going to segment those out. We're going to keep the segments in the bowl because we'll add those to the sauce for presentation at the end, but we don't want to lose any of the juice because we'll incorporate that into the sauce. So find where the white lines are, separate the segments carefully because it's in your hand. Long strokes, and then same again, the other side of the segment, which leaves you with the orange segments. Over the bowl, or in this case the pan that I'm going to use to make the sauce in. So I'm keeping all of that lovely fresh juice. I've got a sort of classically trained background, worked at the box tree, and so that's where a lot of sort of my food style comes from. It's quite classic French, including this dish today, but I like to eat Asian food. It's an unusual sort of set of ingredients, and it gives flavours that you don't necessarily find in Western cuisine. When you use soy sauce and a lot of umami flavours, things like dried mushroom and seaweed allow you to get a range of flavours into food that don't necessarily exist if you use purely Western ingredients. With the grapefruit, exactly the same process. The segments are a bit larger, so I'll take a little bit more off. I'm just going to take another slice there to allow me to get into the pith a bit better. So what I've got in here is the basis for the sauce for the turbot. I didn't want to waste any of the juice that comes from the grapefruit or the orange, so that's freshly squeezed. And then, just to save a little bit of time, I've got a really good quality fresh orange juice here, and we're going to pop that into the pan, and we're going to reduce it by 2/3. So we're going to heat it up past boiling, and that will form the basis for the sauce. So while the sauce is ticking over, I've got the fish. So the first and most important thing is your preparation. I've got everything to hand, so I'm not going away anywhere. I've got the fish itself, I've got the oil. This is just a cold pressed rapeseed oil from Wharfe Valley that I'm going to use for cooking. I've got butter, I've got some sea salt, I've got a rather battered turner that I'm going to use for turning the fish over and removing it from the pan. And I've got a spoon that came from my gran who she taught me how to cook. It's my first memory of cooking, so it goes with me everywhere, does this spoon. But it's also a lovely shape for basting the butter onto the fish. I've got quite a large pan, non-stick, and it's on a medium heat because you want it to be hot, you don't want it to be too hot. Cooking a piece of fish this size will take a little bit of time to get the heat into the middle of the fish, but as I said, it's really important. Patience, and don't move it, don't play with it. What I'm going to do, I'm going to dry the skin of the fish. Once it's dry, I'm going to season the fish. I'm going to add the oil to the pan, give it a few seconds for the oil to heat up, and then I'm going to leave it. I'm going to do nothing, and you'll see the fish start to colour around the outside. I'll show you a little technique to make sure you get a caramelisation all over the fish. And then again, I won't shake the pan, I won't move it, I won't stir it, I'm just going to leave it and let it cook. So here we go. Add the oil to the pan, see the pan. Join a little bit. And then once it's in, just going to turn the heat back down a little bit. See how it's starting to smoke? That means it's perfect temperature. Turn it down. Season the fish. Again, I'm using a flaked sea salt. And then add the fish to the pan. Put it in away from you, so then if the fat splashes, it's not coming onto you. You should hear that noise. If you're not hearing that noise, your pan is not hot enough. Same again. And now, don't move it. Don't do anything with it for now. You certainly don't want to shake the pan, you don't want to stir it. You want to allow the heat from the pan, from the oil, to transfer onto the fish and get us the caramelisation that we need. A piece of fish this size will take a few minutes, exactly in the same way as cooking a steak. And what you want to do, where the flesh of the fish is touching the pan, there is little packets of moisture. We want to try and get rid of those to ensure that even caramelisation over the whole fish. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to touch it in various places, and hopefully you guys will be able to hear. It makes a noise, and then the noise goes away, and then I'll touch somewhere else and it'll make a noise and the noise will go away, and that is getting the even caramelisation over the fish. I can feel almost a popping sensation under my fingers, and what that is, that's the moisture from that part of the fish cooking, and then that's going to give me a really even caramelisation. So I'm still when cooking fish, really important, you've got the proper tools for the job. A nice fish slice like this, very, very thin, slightly flexible, will allow you to get exactly underneath the fish. If I stir in the pan, you'll just start to see the colour that's coming up there. That is some of the fats from the fish is starting to caramelise. So I'm going to take one of the pieces, I'm going to have a look at it and see if I think it's ready to add the butter. So you can see, lovely, lovely caramelisation. I'm nearly there. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to pop it back down another minute. You'll see, exactly like a steak, I'm still only cooking the fish on one side. That's going to be the presentation side. You're going to get a lovely caramelisation, and the heat will transfer all the way through. So next what we're going to do, we're going to add the butter. That's quite a large amount of butter, again, probably about 100 grams. When you're adding the butter, what we also want is you'll find that the milk fats in the butter will burn, and that will add, where we've got a golden brown caramelisation, that will only continue that. You just see the butter's just starting to turn a lovely golden brown colour. And so what we're going to do then is we're going to remove the pan from the heat. We're going to take our fish slice very, very, very gently underneath the fish. But we don't want, having spent all that time making a lovely caramelised crust, we don't want to lose that crust. And then we're going to turn it over. What we're going to do, exactly like a piece of meat, we're going to allow that to sit there and rest. That will continue to cook the residual heat. It's that to firm, it's still, it's got a lovely firm texture to it. You could do exactly the same with the cod, and you'll find that if you are cooking with cod or you're substituting it, you'll end up with that lovely flaky texture. Sauce is ready, fish is cooked, we can assemble the dish, put it together. We'll take the braised fennel out that we put in earlier. See, I've got a lovely bit of colour on there. That'll have taken all the flavour in from the braising liquid. There you've got it. Braised fennel, roast turbot, citrus, coriander, Wharfe Valley Rapeseed Oils.